Good morning. It is 7/11, July 11th, 2023, and haven't done a tour in a couple of weeks or so, so I thought I would give an update and do a little walkthrough. What we're looking at right now is one of these gorgeous native roses. I don't remember if this is Rosa Carolina or some other one. It's called pasture rose or meadow rose, but there's a lot of bee activity. These are real popular with pollinators. Got bumbles and honeybees and all kinds of little friends coming to visit these things when they're in bloom. They're in bloom for about 2 weeks. At this time of year, they've been blooming for about a week now, maybe halfway through. So really enjoying those around the garden. Also, it is prime season for fruit, berries, all different kinds of berries. Black raspberries are kind of 2/3 of the way through harvest. Currants, gummy berries, which we're going to see here in a minute. Other things, if it was less of a drought year, you'd be seeing more fruit. There'd be more currants and things like that, and the brambles would be sizing up even better. But it's been quite dry here. We've had a couple of rains that have given us some relief, but not really enough. We're still in the second or third stage of drought, according to the drought map. And on this site, it'd be probably 1 degree worse than average because of the soil. So the gummy berries, the cool thing about these is they hang on for a long time after they're ripe, if you net the bushes. If you don't net them, the birds will have stripped them off ages ago. But they do kind of hang on here for a long time. So you can pick them, and they actually, they don't seem to degrade in quality much for a week or two after they're ripe. So you can come and pick those. Red currants are kind of like that too. They've got kind of a long harvest window, unlike the bramble fruit where you've got about a day to get it, or sometimes even less than that to get it when it's peak. So I'm gonna shovel this handful of berries into my mouth here for a second and talk and narrate and chew. Nanking cherries not doing very well at this site, but there are a few berries and a few cherries still left here and there around this garden. I have 2 plants at my other house or garden where I live, and those are doing much better than the ones at this garden. They don't seem to have the pest problems, although they do have a disease problem now. Sorry, I'm still eating. But these give you a sense of scale here. They're not huge things, but they're pretty good. Popular with visitors to the garden. This old peach tree here, you can see I've been doing some thinning of the fruit. A lot of bug damaged fruit, and as dry as it's been, you're seeing a little bit of drought stress on these leaves. Not terrible, but it's good to thin the fruit off because otherwise it won't size up properly. So as we get in here, the problem with this tree is that a lot of the fruit is out of reach. So I'm thinning when I can reach easily, but I should get a ladder in here and get some of that stuff on the top. Now I think I've thinned enough that I'm not going to be totally snapping branches off, but peaches will. Actually, I probably should bring a ladder because I'm seeing a lot of fruit, in these higher branches that I can't reach easily. Peaches are one of the trees that will happily break their branches off by overbearing fruit. They don't know when to quit. But yeah, these ones that have some bug problems, they've got a little damage from whatever gets into peaches. I'm not sure if it's like a stink bug or if it's the plum curculio or what. Pardon the crazy camera work here. So yeah, I'm just pulling a couple of these off as I'm here, but I'm not gonna make a thing of this. But the more you thin off, the bigger and better the fruit will be. And these peaches on this tree are large. It's a large peach. It's the size of a baseball at least. Here's a non-success story. This is a graft of Jocelyn mulberry, and it's not seeming to take at all. It burst the tape there, but I'm not seeing any leaves budding out here on the stem. I have pulled off the growth on the rootstock a couple of times, but so far nothing on that. So we'll see what happens. Not very confident that will take. Another graft disappointment over here. This was a Gumi onto autumn olive, which I had high hopes for because it initially was looking pretty good and looked like it was taking. It's never grown more than a couple of little tiny leaves. So I'm thinking that it's, come on, focus. I'm thinking it's probably not gonna go, or it's not doing much anyway. See if I can get the focus to come in. Yeah, it's tricky. So there, I have other grafts that were done at the same time that have grown, you know, a foot or so. So it's not great. Okay, we will move up. This aromatnaya quince, it's got some fruits on it this year, and I'm looking forward to those. These catalpas, every time the wind blows, the damn tender branches just keep snapping off, so it's giving me a lot of mulch material here for this young grafted Asian pear tree. I think I showed this last time too, but you can see there behind my hand is the graft union. It is a calorie pear base and a Nijiseki Asian pear top. So something is building a real ragged nest. I'm not sure if this is just, maybe what happened is they started building a nest and one of the branches that was supporting it snapped off, or it's like just the nastiest looking nest anyone has ever seen, but it's a complete mess. I don't know what's going on with that. What kind of a species makes a nest like that? Here's a graft that's doing well. This is Illinois everbearing mulberry, and it's grown, two feet or more. Let's see if we can get on the grafting in there. Of new growth. That one doesn't look quite as clean as the pear we just saw, but it looks okay. I think it'll heal just fine. And as we go over here, I don't always walk into this area. We've got cup plant, got some kind of a currant that has never fruited, and we've got some brambles, and we've got some wild plums. These are Luther Burbank bred brambles here. It's some kind of a purplish colored, I think it's a hybrid between a red raspberry and a black raspberry. None of them are ripe here that I'm seeing. They kind of get to be about this color there, that little reddish purple, maybe a little bit more purple than that. These aren't quite ripe yet, and they're also very small. Well, here's one down here that's sort of purplish, but yeah, they're mushy like a red raspberry. I don't really like red raspberries that much because of that mushy quality, but my wife likes them a lot, so maybe we'll try to do better with these and give them some better water and mulch in years to come. And this is another Luther Burbank berry that I got from my friend Trevor. This is a white fruited blackberry, apparently. Real heavy kind of fruit initiation, but there's very little fruit that is good to pick or has any size to it. So lots of potential, but very little return. Over here, we've got a baby Nanking cherry there that's white fruited, I believe, or yellow fruited. And the old butterfly bush, it was a mild winter, so this thing did not really die back like it normally does in a winter here. Normally the entire plant will kind of die and then it'll regrow the whole structure. This last winter, the main stem survived. Love that smell. That's amazing. So this is not really considered an invasive species in this part of the world yet. I've never seen any reseed after a dozen years of growing it and letting the seeds fall. But that's not to say that it can't be invasive other places, so plant it with caution. Over here, forgot to show, I have a sort of a patch of feral potatoes that have been growing here for probably 8 years or so. And a little hazelnut bush that the rodents planted for me. I cut down some pokeweed and used it as mulch, but there's also some sunchokes that have found their way in, motherwort, which is good for bees. Not my favorite plant, but I kind of allow it to be around wherever most of the time. I just don't like the scratchy seed bits after they mature. It's very sort of itchy and not pleasant to brush against. They're really sharp. But I see bees, around it. They love it, and it's a good medicinal plant, but it's fairly common and not hard to get a hold of. So yeah, there's some potatoes here that I've not done anything with except harvest a few over about a decade, and the plants still look decent. They don't seem like they're riddled with diseases or anything. So I think, and they've actually moved around. I think rodents are moving them around. I've seen some come up 10 feet away from where they were. Like there's a little one right there. So I don't know, not to say that you could grow them at scale that way, but it's interesting that they can sort of persist over time in a garden, in a wild system. This is green-headed coneflower, Sochan. It's perked back up a little bit from the rain we got last week. This was a failed mulberry graft here. That was using the year-old cyanwood that didn't take, so this is all resprout growth there. I did some pawpaw grafts. Oh, it's been a while, and it's probably been at least 2 or 3 weeks. I can't remember if I probably didn't put the date on these. Most of them are not really showing anything in the way of budding out. That one is not. Let me come over here and see if this one has anything. I've seen just the most tentative little buds pushing through on a couple of these grafts. This is Davis, and that one looks like it's got nothing happening, but there are some pawpaws around that I've grafted that are showing me some signs of possible life. Okay, there's another nice rose over there, but I'm not going to walk over there to look at it. Well, I thought about it, but no. There's a chestnut graft over there that is taking, or I'm sorry, a persimmon graft, but you don't have to look at all those. So you can see this hedgerow that's been replanted 3 years ago, and you'll see it more in later shots. This is now in the awkward adolescent phase where things are getting up to about waist height or much greater in the case of the autumn olive. But now they're at prime deer browsing height, so the deer are clipping them off pretty regularly, and they seem to have quite a taste for things like 9-bark, red osier dogwood, elderberry. Hazelnuts they don't bother too much, and these roses they do clip those too. This hazelnut is showing some precocity at a young age. It had a couple nuts last year. This is one of the New Forest Farm. I think all the hazels in this replanted hedgerow are New Forest Farm ones, so they are early to bear. And then all these areas are wildflower mix, and the lance leaf coreopsis are kind of finishing off. We've had some other things finishing off. I don't remember. Oh yeah, this is Anasis up, one of my favorites. I should know that by sight, but had to taste it to confirm. Purple flower, whole plant has a wonderful black licorice flavor. There's some spiderwort. This looks like this is an echinacea, but I'm wondering if this is the pale purple coneflower. We'll see as these petals get larger. Pale purple coneflowers are mostly done blooming, and the common echinaceas are more what's coming on right now around my gardens. Very sad looking gumi. Don't know what the problem is. It always has these kind of plagued looking chlorotic yellow leaves. We've got some hairy vetch climbing over stuff. Got some wild senna. It's a nitrogen fixer. Both of those are nitrogen fixers. Damn, I thought this tall coreopsis was in full bloom. Maybe that's the other patch I have back there. There is a yellow-fruited Nanking cherry. I think, is there one over here still? There was a pale purple coneflower, just a single one over here somewhere, and maybe it's already done and lost. This is compass plant. I don't think this one has ever flowered. It's been here for 12, 13 years, so I'm not very happy there. Its cousin, cup plant, is perfectly happy and has done well. I guess I lost that coneflower that I was looking for. But a couple other things to show as we walk around. These wild petunias here have become quite a member of the ground cover gang here. I planted a couple of these and they've really spread themselves around a lot. So they've displaced some other things like the wild strawberries that I had, and but that's fine. They're a harmless plant and they're quite pretty. I'm sure there's a lot of insect interactions there. Peach planted from seed. There's a couple little peaches on here. I'm hoping that these will hang tough. No, that's the size they are right now. We've got another cone flower coming in here. I should remember what this one is called. I don't want to say the wrong name, so I'm just going to leave it at that. But that one is a newer species that I just started having here in the last couple of years. I don't know it that well. American plum, lots of bug problems on these all the time. But Yeah, these are like magnets for any kind of problem you could imagine. But there's a little fruit on there and some deer browsing, like everything else. I had a little dieback. There's a hazelnut there you can see with some dead branches, probably drought related. The drought has been tough. And this cultivar autumn olive also has a bunch of bad looking leaves. And I wonder if I should clip another giant stem off, because it just looks like shit. I've watered it a number of times, but not looking good. Hopefully it doesn't die. It only had a few fruits last year. Let's see, what do we have over here? The daylilies are kind of peak flowering right now, if you like the scent of those. Not my favorite scent, but whoa, we got some massive turds here. Jesus Christ. I don't know what that's from. Raccoon with diarrhea or something? Maybe it's not deer, I don't think, unless the deer's got some digestive problems. Here's some deer scat, I think, that's kind of dried down. So the one blessing or curse or whatever of having such a wild garden is that there's full access to all kinds of animals. And as the garden grows up and gets more diverse, I might as well walk over here and show this rose for a minute. You get more animal interactions, which is good and bad. You have more problems with them eating stuff, but you also get more fertility and maybe diversity brought to the site via the animals. So I like having them around, and it's always exciting to see some new animal interaction, or pile of scat in this case. Well, here's a persimmon graft, and I probably need to stake this up soon. That is Gordon, and it's like a double bark graft. This is just the rootstock there. That's growing pretty nicely. Now, something interesting here. So this tall tree is a honey locust that I girdled pretty severely this spring. So it's started to leaf out, but then never really did. And that's fine, because I wanted to kill it and just leave it as a snag. But this tree here that's all bare looking and dead, that I did not try to kill, and that's just died on its own, or dying from the drought. And that is a little leaf linden. And I'll go look at that first in a second, but show you this flowering quince. This is one of these kind of ornamental quinces. It has a pretty substantial fruit set this year compared to other years. Now we'll see how much of that fruit actually sizes up. I don't think any of it will get large, but cool to see. Well, that one's got a good size. I wonder if I thin some of these off, if that'll beef up the size of the rest of them. Probably would. Maybe I should do that. And speaking of fruiting, gotta watch out for that scat pile. Fruiting, this pear tree has a decent fruit set. Most of it, a lot of it in the top that I can't quite get to, so I might have to try to start maintaining some of these trees for height, get an orchard ladder that goes up 15 feet or so, and just kind of keep things relatively within reach, because otherwise it's like you're just waiting for it to fall down, even if you have one of those basket picker type things. So yeah, here's the canopy. Now the top is all dying, and I don't expect it to survive, as dead as it looks. It was just about to flower, which is a bummer, because it's probably not going to flower now. You can see these little dead things would have been the flowers. Now they're just like crispy, crunchy. Well, we'll see what happens. But anyway, it's resprouting all this stuff at the base. Sorry for the focus. So it's going to regrow with multiple trunks. So, and actually I'll point out there's a grape growing down there, and there's a grape growing on the base of that honey locust tree, which is also just a weed tree. So they can be living or dead, in this case, trellises for those grapes. Now that tree right there, excuse me, that is a multi-stemmed little leaf linden. So it's growing fine. And I'll pan around here and show you this graft of this chestnut. Pardon me. So this one here is taking. This is the Dick Winkle unknown chestnut. This one here does not seem to be really taking, but that's okay because it's the same trunk. So we've got two. And this one here, this is Proc Persimmon, and this is growing quite nicely. That's grown a couple of feet or so. So happy about that. Some of the persimmons have surprised me, pleasantly surprised me. I've been glad to see those growing. The pawpaws have not done so well. Mulberries, not so great. This is Monarda didyma, and there's the common Monarda fistulosa, and these are just starting to flower. I've got a zillion of the latter there. Only have a few of the didyma with the bright color. So the nursery, I've had several garden tours since my last video, and I've given away a lot of plants. Well, I still have a lot of plants here, but I've given away a substantial number. So it's a few less to have to water. My problem with the chipmunks is still ongoing. Have not solved that. Hot pepper, cayenne pepper did not seem to bother them too much. Damn, I got that buckthorn, or no, that's the Asian bittersweet crap growing here along with the poison ivy. Great. You can see the number that the deer are doing on my sunchokes. Wish I would have given away more of those, but people were not super interested in sunchokes apparently. They don't know the value of them. I do have a couple of nice clove currants here potted up, and this one actually has fruit on it. Not ripe yet. I've given away a couple of those. Those are precious. I don't get too many of those seedlings, maybe just a few per year, or I should say propagules. They're not seedlings. Here's a graft of Frechtling's favorite. I need to put something on that to protect it because it's a little precarious. Probably need to rewrap that because it looks like it could snap off easily. Probably should put some tape on that or stake it or something. But that's exciting. Now this persimmon over here is not a good graft. I did three or four grafts on this one, and only one of them is like sort of kind of taking. So this one here, that was bald eagle. That one failed, didn't ever take. This one here, sorry, I can never focus with these goddamn tree tube things. This one is, I think that's also bald eagle, and it's just barely growing. And this bark graft, double bark graft of whatever that was, I can't remember. I have it. Let's see, that's the quality of permanent markers. Those both failed. So you've got some pretty vigorous regrowth. Now this tree had damage from ambrosia beetles, and that was a problem, which is probably one factor in the graft's not taking very well. So it's done some vigorous resprouting. I've actually pulled off a bunch of sprouts already, but you know, if I had thinned that down to one, it probably would have grown 10 feet in 1 year. So this bed was ravaged by the little rodent things, chipmunks too. So there's almost everything here is gone and dead. Now, unfortunately, I have two red currant cuttings that survived, and I had a couple of cuttings of the Chinese tune tree. There's one there and there. This one started to leaf out and then died because I think it got dug up around. And this one looks almost dead, maybe because it's not getting any sunlight or something, but that's a bummer. But in better news, I thought the chipmunks had dug them all up, but along the edge of this bed here, you see there's a bunch of baby pawpaws. And those are from good quality parents, so that's cool. I was hoping to have some pawpaws. Thought maybe the seeds had been eaten, but I think they survived. And here we've got some kind of currant that I ordered cuttings of, a new kind of elderberry. There's a new kind of elderberry and a willow. I need to get some nitrogen to these things. They look pretty yellow. And this one is even trying to flower. I'm going to pinch this flower off because we don't need it to do all that while it's trying to make a root system. Maybe that'd be a good thing actually, to stifle the root system a bit, but oh well, I've pinched it off. Let me come over here and show, yeah, this is my champion wild rose here, but I cut down the entire hazelnut bush that was next to it, and as an experiment, coppice experiment. And it's regrowing pretty well. It's already between knee and waist high, and I expect this year depending on the deer browsing, it'll grow 5-6 feet, I would think. Some of them are already at least 4 or 5 feet. But this rose bush doesn't look nearly as full as it normally would, because I don't know, maybe I think that they've been browsing it somewhat too. Well, I know they have. You can see a bunch of it here. It's all been clipped off. So yeah, this one has looked better some other years, but it's okay. I think next year it'll be great. There's some groundnut growing. I've got groundnut. Birds are singing for me today. I've got groundnut growing around here and there, and it just kind of shows up wherever it wants to. So this bed, yeah, that whole side is basically nothing. I do have a few remnant American chestnut seedlings. They seem to go for those less than some of the other chestnuts that were larger, thank God, because these are probably the most precious. The ones from my own trees were pretty precious to me too, but these Americans, you know, who knows how long those trees will even be around. So glad to have a few of those surviving. a couple of the wart nuts. And this one started off being really variegated, and now it seems to have lost the variegation, which is a bummer. But anyway, we'll see. Maybe it'll reappear. So I've got some major purslane coming in. I've kind of let that go just as a sort of an innocuous ground cover, although it's getting to be a bit much. And there's a couple chestnuts that the rodents missed. These are Seguin from my Seguin tree. The timber type chestnuts, they got most of those. And I guess I should show you my chinkapins here. I think the deer are probably clipping these off as they grow through the cage. But these are my little bed of chinkapin chestnuts. And I've also got another big container of these over in another garden next door. So sorry, we're already 25 minutes in. Jesus. Growing in these boxes, it's been a mixed bag. Grape cuttings are almost a total failure, but I attribute a lot of that to the chipmunk digging. Hazelnuts all got dug up. There's 0 alive. These are all totally dug up. There's some wart nuts in here that are okay. They got about half of those. These persimmons, a lot of them seem to have winter killed. Didn't have a huge success rate overwintering those. Elderberry here, you can see there's a lot of bee activity. Maybe you can. These are kind of finishing up their flowering. Not a real heavy fruit set. I think as I get more pollinators around for the elderberries, it should help. But right now, I think that's a fly. No, that's a cool wasp. Maybe I thought it was one of those flies that looks like a bee. But there's a lot of pollinators to study around here if I had more time and energy to devote to it. But this is a nice ornamental. This is Hochberg elderberry. It's a European one. And it doesn't make tons of regrowth every year. It kind of just keeps its original structure. Now maybe if I chopped it down, it would regrow nicely. But the problem is the deer like to eat it so much that I'm afraid they would be so attracted to those young tender growths that it would never get to that size again. More wart nuts there. There's a little clove currant. I do have a clove currants with a couple fruits that are coloring up over here, but I didn't show those. I forgot, sorry. Had some red currants here. Those seem to all be gone off of that bush, and then the bush is getting murdered by deer. And here too, red currant. This is the perfection one from Russ, and all the leaves are stripped off. Didn't have any. Well, it has a couple little fruits this year, but nothing impressive. Flame willow. This red currant, I don't remember what this one is, Ravata or something. This one has a few fruits on it still, and not a bad size. I mean, pretty decent, I think. The Chinese tune tree looking pretty good. We did eat some of those leaves this year for the first time. I don't know why I waited several years to try it, but the plant was just never growing that well, so I was kind of hesitant to get into it too much. Actually, even this tender young growth isn't that good. I think what you really want is that early spring growth. It gets a little stringy and tough when you get into this midsummer stuff. So live and learn. Don't wait until July or late June. Little hazelnut baby there, little rugosa rose here, and I think this had a couple flowers, but I guess they're done. Yeah, they're done flowering. And now my ocean of Monarda is back in force. These are not really opening up yet, and these don't seem to have it too badly, but I do have quite a bit of powdery mildew showing up on the Monarda already. Whoa, there's some little baby, something that just, oh, it's a baby bunny. Hey bud, you can see it there. This is Turkish rocket going to seed. I should collect this seed and try to sow it so I can make a lot more of those plants, because they are cool plants and I would like to have more of them. Okay, I'll leave the bunny alone and I will walk this way. I did transplant a couple of my nicest, yes, I have a nice wild black raspberry that showed up that has larger than average fruit. So I took a couple cuttings of that and grew them or stuck them in places. And this one, even though it hasn't been watered or anything and barely been mulched, it has pretty good fruit set. And it is nice quality fruit. I haven't tried really the cultivars of black raspberries to see, if they're much better taste-wise. But I can't imagine them being too much more prolific than some of these are. Yeah, good stuff. Okay, Sorry for the distraction. Walk over here. Show you a couple of blueberries. These are growing in too much shade, like way too much shade. But this is one that's been here for 10 or 12 years. And the junk laying around here is not my junk, I apologize. This one here that looks ripe has probably got bug damage. But any blueberries can grow in a fair amount of shade. The wild ones do sometimes. There's a volunteer Nanking cherry, volunteer oak. And this nice pine duff with the pine needles is a good seed bed for seedlings. So I've got these mature, what do they call them? Not river locust, false indigo bushes around here, and I have kind of scattered the seeds into this mulch because it's, these are a valuable plant. I'd like to have more of these seedlings, but they have a substantial root system, so it can be hard to get them out. Even a little one like this might have a pretty good root system, surprisingly, for its size. So it's good to have them where you can kind of gently pull them out of the ground, get them potted up, and get them into other people's hands. I think I've got enough of them growing around the garden here. I'm pretty well planted out with those. A couple fruits on that little blueberry. This one here has been a decent bearer. It's a later blueberry, but not too many this year. Again, just drought stricken, and probably wherever there's wood chip mulch, there's mole and other burrowing activity that kind of ruins the roots. So that's always fun. This mystery flower, I need to ID this. It's some kind of a sunflower. I don't think it's not Heliopsis. Have to figure it out. It's pretty cool. It's not a sunchoke, but it's something in the sunflower family. I don't remember if I planted it or if it showed up. This Monarda is in full bloom. And then these pawpaw grafts I did over here come into the sassafras thicket. I don't think there's much growth on these, but there's maybe a little something. Let's see here. No, IXL has nothing to show just yet. And there are wild brambles, there are black raspberries, and I've planted some my golden black raspberries up there, but they were suffering in the drought too. And this graft, nothing showing on these yet. Maybe they're in too much shade, Sweet Virginia. Or it could be that I used 2-year-old signwood. That could be the other problem. What do we got here? This one has a little bud. That's Davis. I think that's from the graft and not the rootstock, but I don't know. We'll see. I think it's from the grafted part. So, Gambare, go Davis. And the tree that had the ambrosia beetles, miraculously, is not looking so much worse for the wear. I cut one of the branches off that was flagging, but I don't know, it seems to maybe have fought them off a bit. There's little pinholes here, but it doesn't seem like so far it's been devastating. So that's awesome. I'm hoping it can pull through. Do have the root sprouts in the worst case, but that's good to see. More Monarda here, more Monarda and sedge mostly. I see one little butterfly milkweed over there, but those have kind of already almost finished. This pawpaw is not looking bad. Here's the Aromatnia quince on calorie pear. Doesn't look bad. Of course, my nice poison ivy ground cover that's coming in everywhere. And I've got a couple more grafts over here to show. This autumn olive on, gumi on autumn olive is growing pretty well. Excited about that. Need to get some mulch for that. Calorie pear grafting candidate for next year. And this, I think this is overlease. That is from the graft, so look at you go. There's a couple of buds there that are sort of taking. This is a pretty much, I would call a failure. Autumn olive on, or gumi on to autumn olive again. Well, we can't win them all. This one, don't see anything happening with that yet either. That is Lynn's favorite. Sorry, Lynn, let you down. Here's another big patch of wild black raspberries, but I'm not gonna go wade in there because I want to add an additional 10 minutes to the video of me picking and eating more berries. The overstory here of catalpa is looking pretty good. The understory coming up. They did flower. Some of these flowered. If you saw my last video, you can see that. A little bit of dieback on this hazelnut here. These little sad oikos plums. Actually, this one down here has a few fruits on it this year for the first time in probably 10 years. And it's never grown more than waist high. I don't know if this is a beach plum. I don't think it was labeled as a beach plum, but it kind of has the habit of a beach plum so far. Maybe in a little bit too much shade, I'm not sure. Over here, we've got the welcome to the jungle area. Lots of sumacs. Here's a Gumi Anta autumn olive graft that's doing pretty decent. And this one here is not doing much, but it is alive. There's just a couple little leaves there, that's it. So I don't think that one, don't have high hopes for that, but this main stem may persist. And I'm letting this false indigo grow up just to kind of camouflage that from the deer. Here's more of these white black raspberries over here. I think we're a little early in the season for those. Those are the Burbank thing I showed earlier. This pawpaw graft, yes, look at that. We got a little bud coming out there with some leaves. How awesome. That's Tay2. So very cool. If this starts growing, I may prune this other competing branch off, but go Tay2. My big awesome hazelnut bush here has some decent nuts set on it. This graft is growing great. This is pristine. Looks like a cleft graft there, and it's put on a couple feet of growth. Got autumn olive, Japanese beetles mating there. Probably should crush those, but I wish there was more birds that ate those things. More good regrowth after initial deer browsing of this Niji Siki. I think it grew about this much before, and then the deer clipped it off there, but it's growing out of the tube now. So unless the deer bend this whole thing over, which is always possible, and then eat it, that could ruin it again, but good regrowth. This Candy Crisp apple growing pretty nicely. Here's another one of the same. No gooseberries on the old gooseberry there, though there are some dewberries that are trailing over it. Not very good fruit. And wild grape too. And then here, this is the Aromatnia quince. It's all tangled up in this tree tube. This one, see, that's not protected, got browsed. So I guess as ugly as these things are, it's good to sort of preserve the tender growth for a year to keep the deer off of it. Deer snapped off the top of this tulip tree. That's just a weed, so it doesn't bother me too much. More daylilies. 38 minutes in. Okay, the chestnuts, there's a wild rabbit. Chestnuts are almost done flowering. There's still some scent of the chestnut flower in the air. If you know the smell, then you know it. It's kind of sweet, kind of yeasty, a little funky. These sand cherries, unfortunately nothing to see there, no fruit. I wish they would fruit, but I think they need a partner. No fruits ever on this Alberta peach tree in 10 years or something. That's just incredible. What do we have? There's the winkle chestnut, and it's still got a few big blossoms. There's a honeybee working on it there. This is the one I've grafted from. I took cuttings of scions of it and grafted it onto multiple others this spring. This one, does it have any flowers this year? It's just a single. No, it doesn't have any flowers, but that's okay. It needs another year or two, I think. This alder is kind of reaching for the stars there. That's a shrubby type of alder. And the black locusts are growing up pretty well. I did notice the black locusts are probably kind of shading out some of my chestnuts a little bit too much. Like over here, I've got a chestnut that I did some heavy pruning on, and it's got black locust growing around it, but I think there's just a little bit too much. I'm gonna clip off a couple things. Sorry, bird. Oh, there's a nest up there, so I'm not gonna clip off too much, but just to give my chestnut a little bit more light coming in over here. And these things are thorny as hell, so you gotta watch out when you prune, not to have these fall on you or stick you in the eye or something. But just to give this thing a little bit more light and a bit of mulch, I guess, too. It never hurts. Sorry for the horrific video quality on that, probably, but yeah, probably at some point you get it. These things get to be so big that you need loppers and not just little hand pruners. But yeah, that may help a little bit. Here's the black locust in the overstory. Overstory there. Got sumacs. Sumacs are done flowering, and they're probably starting to set their fruit. Kind of weird looking alien. I don't really see any fruit happening on that one. Sumacs have male and female plants. I don't know who's who back here. So I'm not going to spend too much time studying it right now. This chestnut, this is that American hybrid chestnut from Hartman. It's got lots of flowers this year, so maybe a few more fruits this year. This is an Allison chestnut here. My little graft of whatever, Grimes Golden, not doing very much. Very little growth on that. Don't expect that to really survive. There was, I think, one fruit on this tall chestnut there last year. We'll see if that happens again. Maybe too much shade from these black locusts. I did cut some out, but I didn't cut down every one that I had flagged for some reason. So, yeah, probably should. Sea berries, not growing very well. And they're still alive. I gave them a bunch of mulch. I actually did some scything back here a few weeks ago and kind of mulched up these chestnuts a bit and the sea berries. But that one looks like totally dead. And that one looks almost dead. So these chestnuts, yeah, these are a sad case here. And there's some apple grafts back there. I'm not going to show those. I think this is a type of tick trefoil or some kind of a trefoil native thing, but the deer really like it. It's in the bean family. It has sticky seed things that stick to your clothes. Kind of a neat native plant. Here's one of these grafts of the Winkle chestnut onto a double trunked, I think this was like Euro hybrid chestnut or something is what it was sold as. And you can see it's got resprouting from the base. A lot of my chestnuts have terrible resprouting problems. But you can see there it's kind of healing over. It doesn't look great, but there is some growth there. And the wild sweet peas are in flower back here. Here's the tall coreopsis that I saw that were flowering. So yeah, these look good in this patch. Rosinweed, we've got both prairie dock and compass plant. Haven't been knocked over by the wind or the deer yet, so that large leafed one there is prairie dock. It's about 6 feet tall, and the compass plant flowers are about 7 feet tall and looking beautiful. Let's go take a closer peek at these things. So there's a younger one, older one, I don't know. Looks quite different than this one here. Maybe that's an older one where these middle parts have already fallen off. Yeah. Sweet smell, smells like honey. So yeah, that chestnut there, that was, I think, an Allison chestnut. That does have some flowers on it this year, so that may fruit again, possibly. This chestnut here, the deer snapped off one of the main branches, so I grafted it to that Winkle chestnut, and you can sort of see there it is growing. I got 4 or 5 inches of growth there, which is cool. Old half-dead mulberries and some more black locust moving into the area. This Illinois everbearing mulberry is growing pretty well. The cage is a little bit sad. Some huge ass leaves. Jesus, those are as big as bigger than my hand anyway. So pretty good growth on that. The cage situation is a little freaky, but I think it's better to have it than not to have it. And those leaves would be pretty attractive to a deer, I think. Whoa, something's creaking over there. This large chestnut, this is the timber chestnut. It's almost done flowering. You'll see all the litter on the ground of the flower parts, male flower catkins. So that one's almost done. Likewise with these chinkapin chestnuts. Sorry that I blank sometimes and my brain freezes and I can't think of the name of something. These ironweed are just about to flower. They're growing surprisingly well this year for as dry as it's been. These are taller than I am here. This cherry, I really should cut that down to give more light to this chestnut. It would really appreciate that. And eventually this birch probably will have the same fate. That may resprout and have multiple stems, which would be attractive. Chinkapin chestnut. The swamp white oak, very nice tree. And here's a graft. So far the deer have not mangled it. Now, I could be cursing myself here, but fortunately, deer seem not to be as attracted to persimmon foliage as some other species. So they don't seem to be hitting it as hard as, like, say, chestnuts or something. But that is a bark inlay graft of some type there, and the variety is Dean, and that's grown a good foot or more, 1.5 feet. So way to go, Dean. Cool. I did not get to my pecan or walnut or hickory grafting this year, which makes me feel pretty stupid, but anyway, there are several pecans here. I think it's too late in the season to do it now. It's yeah, almost mid-July. It's too late, I think. More light over here now that wild cherry's been thinned out. I have some pawpaws over here that were grafted, but I don't think they're really showing anything much in the way of growth on the grafts, so I'm not going to waste your time. I think this was a direct seeded nut. I had a bunch of these seeds, and so I took a shovel and I stuck some in the ground directly in about 6 or 8 different places, and that's one of the few that seems to be popping up, which is cool. I'd like to have, anything grown on its own roots in place is going to be the best possible, strongest tree. This is another area I did that, but I don't think there's anything growing here. And it's confusing because these compound leaves, they all kind of look similar after a while, the walnuts and the sumacs and whatever. Okay, and so there's probably a couple more direct seeded nuts there. There's a new English walnut over there. I'm not gonna go show them. Heavily deer browsed grafted apple there. Well, this pear that I grafted last year, I think this is Ayer's pear. You can see that it's almost closed over this wound here. It's got just a little bit more. I guess it's the race. We'll see if it does it before the end of the season. It might. If not, it's gonna get pretty close. So that's good. I did trim the top of that off because it was so floppy and tall. I'll do some more pruning of that sometime soon to give it an obvious central leader again. Autumn olive showing some drought stress. Here's another chestnut graft. The chestnut grafts so far, I may be cursing myself again, but that one's showing pretty good growth. They seem to have taken better than some other species, but they might have delayed graft incompatibility in a year or 2 or 3. And they may die, so I can't count my eggs just yet. I believe there's another direct seeded nut here. I thought I saw something that looked like a real tree yesterday. Maybe I'm just confusing it for the sumacs, but anyway, there is one there if it ever pops up. Catalpa, that's a wild serviceberry, or maybe one I planted riddled with cedar apple rust. We've got oak showing some, that one maybe should be cut down. It's got some major problems. The leaves look really brown. There's a couple of tulip poplars there that have never flowered even at that size of 30 feet tall or however tall they are. Some chestnuts in here, some newer chestnuts. There's one there. They all look yellow and sad. My 3 or 5 or whatever eastern red cedars that are gonna grow back and close that little hedgerow back up again soon. Wild plums growing okay. Deer ravaged serviceberry. White pine, those grow pretty well. And these hazelnuts here, they've got some nuts on them this year. They have not had many nuts historically. This one looks like it doesn't have anything or very few, just a few. These were supposed to have been beaked hazelnut, but they aren't. They don't look anything like beaked hazelnut, I don't think. But yeah, I don't know if this one's ever really had nuts, so we'll see. Maybe this will be the year to prove me wrong. Here, this is a rosin weed about to flower. This one seems a little earlier than the rest, which is cool. I was just so impressed with the amount of biomass these things grew the first year that I had them, that I got a whole flat of them another year and planted a lot of them throughout the property, and even in hedgerows, because they're almost a bush of a plant. They're pretty substantial, so it has a place in a hedgerow to me. American plum, some little fruits on that. Still another month or more off from the fruit on those. I don't think I'm going to walk all the way back here. Not much to show except some dead looking little baby chestnuts. Can't remember what this is. Maybe a fringe tree or something. Something from Oikos, some oddball thing. It's either a fringe tree or a magnolia relative. I have to look it up. But I think it's related to olives somehow. This is moth mullein. Nice little oak here. Can't remember what this character's name is. Maybe something in the bur oak family. Look how corky this bark is. Even these little branches are so stout and corky. It's pretty cool. Now, my persimmons over here, I am pleased with overall. Did some grafting, and most of my grafts seem to have taken. The problem is all the wood chip mulch I put down this spring has invited the moles and things to really be digging under here, so all the roots are upset by mole digging. But here's a nice foot and a half of growth on Ennis seedless. This is that real crazy curved shaped thing that had some tree tube issues early on. And this one here is Gordo bark inlay graft, and it's grown a foot or so, looking pretty good. Some of these red leaf types are cool. This is a little graft of Dean. We already saw Dean earlier. That one's looking okay. There's a funky petrichor smell back here. Not a real pleasant one. It's kind of thick and strange. This is Proc. This has grown really nicely. There's a bark inlay graft there. It's supposed to rain a good inch or so tonight, so that'll be great if it does. I'd really enjoy that. Plants could really use a good soaking rain. Anyway, there's a few more grafts throughout here, and they look fairly promising. So I'm hopeful that I will have a few that survive. Another little nice native prairie rose over there in some pretty harsh drought conditions, so not really thriving. Just wanted to show this kind of hedgerow mosaic here. I want to cut this video short because it's getting very long. But you can see the combination of drought stress and deer browsing, does not look great here. Things are looking pretty sparse. The mulch is probably helping, but nannyberry, autumn olive, red osier dogwood, nine bark, hazelnut, nannyberry, serviceberry, Nanking cherry, serviceberry, Nanking cherry. So yeah, looking a little tough back here. I think I saw, a couple little flowers here. This rose, cool. Okay. Anyway, this is how the persimmon area is looking now. This hedgerow got a few remnant plants that didn't get mowed 2 years ago or 3 years ago. These bigger ones here, there's quite a few nuts on that hazelnut. But it's looking pretty patchy. Here we've got some weird dewberries that are flopped up onto this autumn olive. And these are not very good fruit. I mean, occasionally you'll find a dewberry that has pretty good fruit, but the problem is they're so low to the ground, usually, unless they're trailing onto something, that you can't even get to them. Beautiful rose here. And it's not worth the hassle. The plants are just covered in these little microscopic thorns, and it's a real pain in the ass to deal with the plant in any way, shape, or form. They trip you up when you walk. It's just kind of a nightmare plant, but it's a native ground cover, and I think it's good turtle food. This is Sweet Seedy Surprise, and that's got a good 2.5 foot or more of growth on it. Beautiful. And this is a multi-trunked. I think this is the tree that got spaded out and moved over to the yard at 405 next door. So it's a bunch of resprouts, but if that takes, maybe I'll graft the main trunk with something once I see that one is taken. I was kind of waiting to see if it would ever have fruit, but I think it's a male probably. Damn flowers, kind of hard to tell until you get to know the plant better than I do. So yeah, not much else to see here, just a bunch of hedgerow. Sorry for the long video. Thank you for watching, the 4 people who watch these things. Appreciate it. Have not done much mowing this year. Maybe once or 1.5 times. Pretty good nut set on those hazels there. These might be maybe Mark Shepherd ones, I'm not sure. Anyway, I'll let you go. Thanks again for your support. Come visit sometime. Thanks, bye.